Well, the education sector in Nigeria was a major headline for most part of 2022. No thanks to the 8 months industrial action by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Also, President Muhammadu Buhari did not meet the global benchmark of allocating 20% of the nation's total budget to the education sector, despite the year recording the highest allocation to education in the last 7 years. Nevertheless, the federal government made some key policies in the sector within the year.
The year 2022 began on a rather quiet note as the academic session commenced in earnest, with many students returning to school. That resumption euphoria was cut short for students in public universities. What started as an initial industrial action on February the 14th snowballed into an 8-month-long disruption of academic activities. The lecturers were protesting unpaid earned allowances, non-release of University Revitalization Fund, as well as the non-operationalization of the University Transparency and Accountability System, UTAS, which is a payment platform designed by the lecturers. There were several attempts to resolve the issues, but the federal government and the union could not come to an agreement.
All these issues we are discussing, we can resolve it in 1 week. If these countries have to declare emergency education because of what we are seeing today, we will solve this problem in less than 3 days.
I don't think that we'll waste too much time in dotting the T's and I's, as I've said, because we have agreed on certain things. I put timelines on them.
When the negotiations did not yield much result, the government approached the judiciary to intervene. A recommendation by the appeal court for an out-of-court settlement did not force the lecturers back to the classrooms. In what appears to be a move to break the union's ranks, the federal government registered the Congress of University Academics, CONWA, a splinter group from ASU.
In the exercise of the power conferred on me as Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment, do hereby approve the registration of 1. Congress of Nigeria University Academics, CONWA. 2. Nigerian Association of Medical and Dental Lecturers in Academics, NAMDA.
Following the failure of the government to resolve the issue, the Speaker of the House of Representatives led the renewed negotiation to get the lecturers back into their classes. Nevertheless, students are glad to be back in school.
We're happy that we're coming back to school.
You don't expect to receive salary after you've not worked for the past 7 months.
However, the lecturers did not back down in their efforts to ensure that the demands are met as the union held protests in various parts of the country, including the nation's capital. The lecturers are further protesting the payment of half salary by the federal government in October.
The Speaker of the House of Rep, he has intervened, and we've given him the honor to do the needful.
The strike has been called off, and the government has paid them what is due to them.
While the crisis remains unresolved, the lecturers are back in class. The Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics went on a 2-day warning strike in May. The government was successful in resolving the issues. The Colleges of Education Academic Staff Union issued a 3-week strike notice over unmet demands on May the 25th. The strike started after 3 weeks and dragged till August the 12th when the association called it off. The crisis in the education sector is not limited to just industrial action. There were issues of poor funding. For instance, President Buhari reneged on his promise to raise federal government's budget for education to meet the global benchmark of 20%, and a far cry from the 26% UNESCO benchmark. According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria is estimated at about 20 million. And there is no indication that the figure reduced, as admitted by the education minister.
I came into office with the result to remove out-of-school children, and I failed.
In the results of the May-June 2022 West African Senior School Certificate Examination, the West African Examination Council, WAEC, announced that about 1.222 million candidates, amounting to 76.36% of the 1.6 million candidates that successfully sat for the examination, obtained credits and above in the minimum of 5 subjects, including English language and mathematics. Some key decisions taken by the government on education in the outgoing year include sustaining the school feeding program and the plan to teach in local languages at basic schools. A rather controversial policy, with the government yet to release operational guidelines on it.
Government has agreed now instruction in primary school, the first 6 years will be in the mother tongue.
Meanwhile, the president is yet to sign the Students' Loan Bill passed by the National Assembly in November. The plan of the bill is to create a Nigerian Education Bank, which will have the power to award student loans.
Now, for more insight into how the nation fared in the education sector, we're joined on the news at 10 by the former Vice Chancellor of Veritas University, Abuja, Professor Michael Kwanashi. Well, good evening, Prof, and thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Good evening. Happy to be here.
Right. Almost everyone speaks highly of education, saying it is a bedrock of a society, it is the best legacy. But in reality, would you say that education got the kind of attention and seriousness it deserves, both from government and stakeholders in 2022?
Certainly not. I think 2022 has been a very challenging year for that sector, for the education sector. Right from the grassroots level to the university level, schools, it's not just the strikes and the protests. You know, the security situation in many parts of the country also made life unbearable for institutions. The cost for running institutions at the lower level, especially in the private sector, skyrocketed because of inflation. Security efforts to mitigate the security challenges. This year has been a very, very, very difficult one for the education sector. Not just the public sector, not just the public part of it, but also the private sector. And in talking about prioritization, I think it's a main issue for the sector. We have always paid lip service to education. There's no doubt that given the trend in the global economy, the need to develop the knowledge economy, to promote the knowledge economy is pivotal, even for the economic level of our nation, for our ability to compete globally. Nobody's in doubt. We are not in doubt of that. But we are not prioritizing to even lay the groundworks to ensure, that we promote knowledge economy right from the grassroots, that we empower our people. The number of out-of-school children is embarrassing, and still policies don't seem to, be able to address these fundamentals.
Right.
It has been a very difficult year for the education sector.
Right. So, Prof, I believe this next question really fits your pedigree as a professor of economics, former vice chancellor with academic experience even outside Nigeria. And it's sort of maybe looking closer at one of the bigger issues we faced last year. What did we get wrong with public universities that made us record prolonged ASUU strike last year, maybe in the area of funding, administration, and all of that?
It's not just what we did wrong last year. This has been long in coming. It's a gradual development over a period. If you really want to trace this, you have to go back to the mid-80s, when the philosophy of education changed, when the previous government commitment to mass education, to socializing our university education, to ensure that every Nigerian child that has the potential to be educated up to the university level gets that. When we introduced the structural adjustment program in the 80s, that changed. The economic philosophy became market-based, became private sector driven, because the whole philosophy changed. And it became difficult to situate the philosophy of education into that. That contradiction had remained up to today. We fund the public sector from the budget. There are many demands on the national budget. There are many demands on the state budget. The state government cannot take all its money and plow into education. It has other contending needs. So if you want public universities or public educational system to be based primarily on the budget, then you have to find a way of structuring the budget that will meet the demand of education. You can't want to have a socialized university system. Well, you can't pay for it. You can't pay the salaries. You can't provide facilities. You keep on trying every year to budget and to give what you think is a share that will go to budget. Other sectors also require money. We need money for health. We need money for development. We need money for all the other things. So it's not really this year's problem. It's a problem that we have allowed to accumulate over a long period of time.
Right.
The decision to allow private enterprise to come into the education system was a wise one. But I don't think the promotion of private investment in education is actually promoted effectively by the state itself.
Okay, Prof, I mean, it's not just tertiary institution. Yes, it gets all of the attention, but there are other levels. There's primary, there's secondary. And let's just wind down in less than 30 seconds with this one. That policy that was introduced, asking that children should be taught in their mother tongue at the primary level, is it implementable? Is it in order?
Well, again, as a post-colonial state, it's going to be difficult. But if you listen to the experts in education, they've always told us that, yes, that teaching in mother tongue at the initial level is very advantageous. Their research have shown that, yes, the child is able to perform better when it's taught in his mother tongue. We didn't, as a post-colonialist, we didn't start that way. We started with, a foreign language. And there's a reason why we started with a foreign language. For us to turn it back now, the infrastructure you need, the teachers you need, the resources you need to build that base up is quite enormous. It's easier said than done. And the elitist nature of Nigerian society still tends towards, Western education, still tends towards Western culture. And it's going to be, it's a laudable policy, yes.
Right.
But I think it will be quite difficult to implement.
Well, Professor Michael Kwanashi, former Vice Chancellor of Veritas University and Professor of Economics, thank you so much for your time on the News at 10.
Thank you. You're welcome.